Jean Piaget, a comprehensive exploration of his life and contributions. Jean Piaget, 1896 to 1980, was a Swiss psychologist, biologist, and epistemologist best known for his pioneering work in cognitive development. His groundbreaking theory of how children acquire knowledge and construct meaning has shaped the fields of developmental psychology, education, and philosophy. Piaget's approach to understanding human thought was unique in his time, as he emphasized the active role of the learner in their development rather than viewing the mind as a passive recipient of information. Early life and background. Jean Piaget was born on August 9, 1896, in Neuchâtel, Switzerland. He displayed an early interest in biology and the natural sciences, publishing his first academic paper on mollusks at the age of 11. This early inclination toward scientific inquiry deeply influenced his later work, where he approached psychology with a biologist's lens, seeing cognitive development as an adaptive process. Piaget earned his doctorate in natural sciences in 1918 from the University of Neuchâtel. His subsequent work at institutions in Zurich and Paris exposed him to psychoanalytic theories, particularly those of Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung. However, Piaget sought to move beyond psychoanalysis, focusing on how knowledge is constructed rather than just how emotions and the unconscious influence behavior. Piaget's cognitive development theory. Piaget's most influential contribution is his theory of cognitive development, which explains how children's thinking evolves through interaction with their environment. He proposed that children are not less intelligent than adults. Rather, their thinking is qualitatively different. His theory identifies 4 distinct stages of cognitive development, each characterized by specific ways of understanding and interacting with the world. 1. Sensorimotor stage, birth to 2 years. Description. This stage involves infants exploring the world primarily through their senses and motor activities, such as grasping, touching, and mouthing objects. Key milestones. Object permanence. The understanding that objects continue to exist even when they are out of sight. For example, a baby who understands object permanence will search for a toy hidden under a blanket. Goal-directed behavior. Infants begin to perform intentional actions, such as pulling a string to retrieve a toy. 2. Pre-operational stage, 2 to 7 years. Description. During this stage, children develop symbolic thinking, enabling them to use words, images, and drawings to represent objects and ideas. However, their reasoning is intuitive and egocentric. Key characteristics. Egocentrism. The inability to see things from another person's perspective. For example, a child may assume that everyone sees the world as they do. Lack of conservation. Children do not yet understand that certain properties of objects, e.g., volume, mass, remain unchanged despite changes in form or arrangement. Animism. Attributing human characteristics to inanimate objects, such as believing the sun is following them. 3. Concrete operational stage, 7 to 11 years. Description. Logical thinking emerges, but it is limited to concrete, physical objects and experiences. Children become capable of performing mental operations like addition and subtraction. Key skills. Conservation. Understanding that quantities remain consistent despite changes in shape or appearance. For example, pouring water from a tall glass into a wide one does not change the amount. Classification and seriation. Children can organize objects into categories and understand sequences, such as arranging sticks by length. Perspective taking. Children begin to understand others' viewpoints. 4. Formal operational stage, 12 years and older. Description. Adolescents and adults develop the ability to think abstractly, reason logically, and solve hypothetical problems. This stage marks the development of higher-order cognitive skills. Key skills. Abstract thinking. For example, solving algebraic equations or contemplating moral dilemmas. Hypothetico-deductive reasoning. The ability to form hypotheses, test them systematically, and draw conclusions. Metacognition. Thinking about one's own thinking processes. Key concepts in Piaget's work. Several core ideas underpin Piaget's cognitive development theory. Schemas. Schemas are mental structures or frameworks that organize knowledge. For example, a child's schema for dog might initially include only their family pet but later expands to include all dogs. Assimilation and accommodation. Assimilation involves incorporating new information into existing schemas. For instance, seeing a zebra and calling it a horse reflects assimilation. Accommodation occurs when schemas are modified to fit new information, such as learning to differentiate between a zebra and a horse. Equilibration. Piaget argued that cognitive development is driven by the need to achieve equilibrium, a balance between assimilation and accommodation. Disequilibrium, or cognitive conflict, arises when new information doesn't fit existing schemas, prompting learning. Piaget's research methods. Piaget's research relied heavily on naturalistic observation and clinical interviews. He observed his own children to study their behavior and asked probing questions to uncover their reasoning. His emphasis on qualitative data and open-ended exploration was groundbreaking, as it contrasted with the rigid experimental methods of his contemporaries. Impact on education. Piaget's theories revolutionized education, emphasizing the importance of developmental readiness and active learning. His work laid the foundation for constructivism, a philosophy that views learners as active participants in constructing their understanding. Key educational applications of Piaget's theory include developmentally appropriate practices. Curriculum design should align with the child's cognitive stage. Discovery learning. Hands-on experiences and problem-solving activities are essential for fostering understanding. Peer interaction. Collaborative learning encourages perspective-taking and cognitive growth. Criticisms of Piaget's theory. Despite its significance, Piaget's theory has faced some criticism. Underestimation of abilities. Critics argue that Piaget underestimated children's cognitive abilities. For instance, research shows that infants may develop object permanence earlier than he suggested. Overemphasis on stages. Modern developmental psychologists argue that cognitive development is more continuous and less stage-like than Piaget proposed. Cultural bias. Piaget's theory was developed primarily through studies of Western children, raising questions about its universality. Legacy. Jean Piaget's work remains a cornerstone of developmental psychology. Although some of his ideas have been refined or challenged by later research, his insights into how children think and learn continue to shape educational practices and cognitive science. His influence extends far beyond psychology, inspiring advancements in philosophy, artificial intelligence, and epistemology. In Piaget's own words, the principal goal of education is to create individuals who are capable of doing new things, not simply of repeating what other generations have done. This vision underscores his enduring impact on how we view human development and learning.